So this is our other Shakespearean sonnet, and it's Sonnet 30. One of the pieces of homework I've assigned for myself over the summer is to do research as to how this sonnet fits into his sequence, because I don't really have a good answer for you on that. You'll also notice that this may not be to a lover. It might just be to a friend. And I don't know if that friend is male or female. You'll also notice that it's not a love poem. So we started going through the poems that had echoes, at least, of the Petrarchan woman. And now I'm moving into sonnets that don't. And so this is one that doesn't really fit with this Petrarchan woman or the pursuit of a love. This kind of stands on its own as a different type of poem with a different subject. So I'll go through it. You'll notice I've highlighted the bank diction, and I've also highlighted our big butt here. And this is a Shakespearean sonnet. This time the quatrains are broken up by not just the rhyme, but also these colons. Then he puts a period here. If you were going to write about this, the best way to do it is to talk about quatrain 1 in paragraph 2 of your paper, quatrain 2 in paragraph 3 of your paper, quatrain 3 in paragraph 4 of your paper, and then you'd either add another body paragraph to deal with this, or you would deal with the couplet in your conclusion. And obviously there'd be an introduction. So we go in the order that the poet built the poem. So let's look at what's going on here. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought. So the first thing is, initially this poem starts off on sweet. And it's almost like, there's no image to suggest this, but it's almost like he's sitting on his porch just enjoying the quiet. And I know for us that's crazy, but you gotta remember they didn't have cell phones or electricity back then, so it wasn't uncommon when you had a moment to yourself to just spend it in a couple of minutes of quiet, right? And he's saying, I'm having this sweet moment of quiet. But this word summon to me is troublesome because it's almost like he does this to himself on purpose. I summon up remembrance of things past. I'm sitting there just enjoying this sweet moment of thought. But then I summon up remembrance of things past. And as I do so, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes newly bewail my dear time's waste. And again, we get that economy of language here where he drops off 2 syllables. So basically, the first thing he's going to be sad about is all the stuff that he sought, whether it's relationships or things or accomplishments. And even though these were old woes, he's going to bewail them again because he is having this newly remembered, if you will, understanding that he wasted his time earlier in life, and now he regrets that. Then can I drown an eye, unused to flow? So this tells us something about our speaker, that he's not used to crying and being super emotional. For precious fens hid in death's dateless night. So the first thing he's sad about is the things that he didn't accomplish or didn't get in life. Now he's starting to remember friends who have died. And we have this, again, death is compared to night. This time it's dateless because once they're gone eternally. And there might be other connotations of that as well. But for these precious friends who are dead, he weeps afresh, love's long since canceled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. So this line here is saying, I loved these people. I had woe for them when they first died, but my love canceled that woe eventually. In other words, my love for them eventually overcame my grief until this moment when I am weeping them afresh. Now that might sound callous and cold, but if you think about, over the course of time, a person's death really does impact you deeply and for a long period. But as the grief eases, you remember them fondly with good memory and love, and the woe doesn't hit you as strongly. Now, again, we can all do this to ourselves, where we drudge things up to torture ourselves, and that seems to be somewhat of what he's doing here. But he says, I'm weeping afresh for these friends that I already grieved for, and my love initially canceled that grief, but here I am bringing it up again. And this moan the expense of many a vanished sight, the suggestion I have here with the commentary I've read says it's tied to these friends, that there's things he's remembering about them in terms of, visual images that we have of the people that we've loved. And this causes an expense to his account. Like I'm moaning the expense of these things that I no longer get to see because they're no longer here. You can also read this truthfully as just the experiences that he's had in life. If he's coming up with a list of things that he's feeling regret and sorrow for, it wouldn't just be his friends that are dead. It would also be experiences he's had that are now done, right? So you can argue this line a couple of different ways. Colon. Then we have the anaphora again. Then can I? Okay. Grieve at grievances foregone. So here's the list so far. There's things I wanted that I didn't get. So I'm reliving my times. I'm looking how I wasted my time, and I'm upset again about that. I had friends that died, so I'm remembering them again, and that causes me some pain. I have vanished sights, either of the friends or of experiences that I've had that I can no longer experience. And now I'm going to grieve at grievances foregone. And so this word seems problematic, but if you think of the expression, it's a foregone conclusion, that means a predicted conclusion, and almost inevitable. And he's recognizing here that there are still things to come that are going to be bad to deal with, right? So that's another thing on his list. And heavily from woe to woe, tell over the sad account of fore bemoaned moan. So even though I know there's things left to come in the future that I'm going to grieve for, I am recalling this account of before bemoaned moan. Isn't that delightful? Which I knew pay as if not paid before. So let me untangle this language a little bit. He's saying here, I think, I am looking at all these woes. I've connected all these woes together, and I'm telling over the account of these things, which I pay for again, as if I had not paid for them before. So I've already grieved these things once, but now here I am doing this to myself again. And you can imagine if you do this to yourself, and I have to admit, there are times I've been a wallower where I have done this. I remember in my single days, I'm ashamed to admit this somewhat, but I pull up either old journals or old pictures of the boyfriend, right, the Air Force dude. And this is probably more within the first couple of years after it happened. I certainly haven't done this anytime recently. That would be really sad. But like, I remember sitting, in my apartment back in Ohio, kind of looking at these pictures again and crying all over, even though it had been 2 or 3 years since that had ended, right? And that's kind of what he's doing to himself. So we're all capable of like stoking these things up. And we're also, truthfully, even though it says he summons them, I do think sometimes grief just snaps up and bites you. People who've lost a parent, adults who've lost a parent, say they know it's the natural course of things. Their parents are 80, 90 years old. And yet the grief over their loss every once in a while just sneaks up and gets them at unexpected moments, right? And those of you who've had a loss already, you understand this too. So he's pretty depressed by the end of this. But, and here's our inappropriate song. We like big butts, right? But we're going to reappropriate that. We like this shift because we have a very sweet ending. If the while I think on thee, dear friend, whoever this is, all losses that I talked about here are restored and sorrows end. Now I understand restored isn't necessarily considered bank diction. But sometimes when you have a cumulative gathering of diction, you can throw in a word that's not directly tied to that, right? And so because we're talking about restored loss, I think you can put it in there. But the sentiment here is rather sweet. Look, I've had all these terrible woes. I know that there's some things still left to grieve. But here, friend, if I think about you, I know that everything's okay. I feel better if I think about you. And that's pretty sweet. So you have that apostrophe here, the apostrophe where he's talking to a friend who doesn't answer back. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit more of that poem.